Welcome to Breakfast Blend, Chi Alpha Drip. I'm Rob, and I'm here with Ellie today.
Hello.
Ellie, thoughts, actions, habits, character, destiny. What's your take here?
Man, it's really cool that those all go together, first of all, because how does that even work? But when you think about it, the things that you do typically come out of you. So if you think, I'm going to hit your hat off your head, and if I just keep thinking it over and over again, I'll probably do it.
That'd be pretty
And that'll
messed
be an
up.
action. Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
messed up. And then, did you know that it takes 21 days for a habit to form?
I've heard that, yeah.
And then it takes 66 days for a habit to become permanent. So it would become natural. So if I did that 21 days in a row and then kept doing it, kept hitting the hat off your head, every time I saw you, I would just hit the hat off
That's
your head.
a lot of commitment to removing these habits.
That
from
would
my
be a
head.
lot. And so that your thoughts turn into your actions, and whatever you keep doing turn into your habits. And your habits ultimately form your character, which is a little scary and lofty to think about because that's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
And then your character leads you to your destiny,
Dang.
which, if it's not towards Jesus, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You know?
For lack of a better term, yes. You know, this is crazy because I totally could see this. I used to work at Berkshire Brothers, a small little grocery store. It's
Yeah.
Not the place to shop. If you're ever in Huntsville, don't shop there. Shop almost anywhere else, and
Okay.
you'll have a better experience.
Yeah.
But in my time there, I worked in the produce department, and you get a whole range of people trying to buy produce
Yeah.
these days. What was always true, though, is, well, not always true. Sometimes old people didn't come to the produce department, but when they did, when an old person came to the produce department and wanted to talk to me, it was always one of two things would happen. Either I would have a great conversation and help them out, and then I would go about my day, and my day would be better. I'd be
Yeah.
like, that was a really solid interaction, showing
Yeah.
them where these apples were. But then other times it would be like this old person would come, and it was like, this was the worst person. I feel like this was the worst person I've ever talked to. I hate my job now. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell them that we didn't have whatever they wanted because they were so unkind.
Yeah.
And so it was this polarizing effect. It was like this old person would either be super awesome and my day would be better, or they would be the worst and my day would be worse off because of the interaction.
Yeah.
But it's like this lived out because they had spent so much time thinking, doing, forming habits, and
Yeah.
their character growing, that their character over this time has become so much like one thing that they could make my day great or make my day bad.
Yeah.
And it's all because of when they were younger, what they thought about, like what they spent time thinking about,
That's really crazy.
which, yeah, it is crazy and made me really want to think good things because I want to be an old person that makes a day better for somebody
Yeah.
and not worse for somebody.
That's true.
There's a saying that input determines output. What do you think about that?
Input determines output. My mom actually used to tell us when we were growing up that if trash comes in, trash will come out. So depending on like what you watch, who you hang out with, what you listen to, what you read, basically what you're giving attention and energy to is how you will be. So same kind of thing, like you want to have good thoughts and you want to choose good thoughts because then good will come out,
Yeah.
hopefully. And so that's the same kind of thing. Input, output. So if you are inputting the good things, the things that you know are right, even if they're hard sometimes, even choosing like the hard things, then the outcome will be good, which is what we want to do. We don't want to just be good people, but we want to be good for the glory of God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of difference, like having that motivation being like to glorify the Lord.
Yeah.
Because if that's not the outcome, then the base thought really isn't very good either.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and then it's like you set yourself subtly on a really bad trajectory.
Yeah.
Man, that's wild that what we think about today, and it makes sense though,
Yeah.
because the scripture that says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth will speak. It's like what you're filling your heart up with your thoughts is naturally what's going to come out. And so if it's like selfish or if it's like arrogant or if it's just completely wrong at its root, then naturally that's what's going to come out. You can't fake it. I guess you can probably for a little while, but ultimately what's in your heart will come out.
Yeah.
And that's just like the reality of the thing.
Yeah.
In Chi Alpha, there's that ism that Jesus needs to be our integration point.
Yes.
What do you think about that? It's kind of a weird concept.
Yeah.
Like when I Google what is an integration point, it's like business material
Yes.
that's way above my pay grade.
Exactly. It's really funny because before coming into Chi Alpha, I really didn't have a good idea as to what that meant. I don't think I even understood what that meant, but I understood like what comes in will come out, or what you do will be a habit. But basically an integration point is what we are revolving around. So what we're putting all thoughts, actions, everything towards. Basically, why are you doing the things that you're doing? Who are you doing them for? Are you doing them for yourself? If you are, then you have taken the place that Jesus should have, which is everything in our life. It's not good.
Whoops.
Yikes.
Quote Ellie, yoicks.
Yeah, that's a good one. And if you are doing things to please your friends or like your resource leader or your professor, your boss, whatever, not saying that you should not do things to like honor other people, but
Sure.
if you're doing things solely for like the affirmation, the praise or whatever, then you're putting other people in the place where Jesus should be as well.
Dang.
And what it comes down to is the Lord should be the purpose of everything that we do, even if it's just making a sandwich or a cup of coffee. You know, like I'm doing these things to take care of myself so I can honor the Lord. And that's what an integration point is. It's whenever we're completely revolving around the Lord, which sounds daunting, but it's actually not as hard as it seems.
Yeah. That's a crazy thought. So how would you go about making a sandwich with the Lord? Personally.
Personally,
Because I'm not sure. Because usually I'm making the sandwich for me.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I make sandwiches for myself as well. But whenever I'm making a sandwich, I might be talking to somebody if they're like in the kitchen or the living room with me. I might be listening to a Marco Polo or listening to a podcast or music or something. But most of the time, it's really just like me making a sandwich really quick to feed myself. And I try to not let my mind just be blank, not let it just sit on nothingness,
Yeah.
which, think about it, your day-to-day, your mind is going to stop sometimes because you're not taking care of your kids, you're not driving somewhere and you have to like be focused on directions, you're not taking care of the things that you have responsibility for, which I don't know how often that is for you because you have a lot of responsibilities, but there's moments whenever your mind is just going to be blank. And what does your mind go to? Does it go to nothingness? Does it go to daydreams? Does it go to things that it shouldn't go to? Like, that's something that I have to catch myself with because I love to daydream and I love to like replay things in my head and try to find a different way to do it or think about something that could happen. And that's actually not glorifying the Lord because it's still revolving around me, you know?
Right.
And I try to, whenever I find moments where my mind is just blank, my mind has stopped, even if it's making a sandwich, to just like come back to the Lord and either just praise Him and thank Him for being able to make a sandwich, afford the things to make a sandwich, to have a house to make a sandwich in, you know, or just to invite Him to do it with me, which sounds silly, but
That's
inviting
cool,
Him in.
There's that worship song, Jesus at the Center.
Yeah.
Center, not sinner. I always, if you slur that, that's not the right song. But Jesus at the Center, that kind of helped me wrap my mind around this integration point idea.
Yeah.
Where it's like outwardly, there's like in my head, there's all the jumble, all the stress, all the cares of the world.
Yeah.
But the outward action, ultimately it comes to a point where Jesus is the filter.
Yeah.
It's like to that filter I work, and from that filter is the right thing, is the good thing that comes from it. Similar to coffee, like you have the beans, you grind the beans, you put the beans in the coffee maker, but before you put the beans in there, you put a filter.
Right.
Because if you've ever had coffee grounds in your coffee, it's not a great experience. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to have a chocolate-covered espresso bean, that's one thing, but when you're trying to have a nice, warm, relaxing drink of coffee, you don't want to have to chew it. Generally, I'm sure there's some people that do, but I'm not that person.
Me either.
So filtering from myself it has to come to a point where Jesus is the integration point, where all of the things that I'm thinking and what is coming out of me has to hit the filter of Jesus, and then from there it can be good and life-giving.
Yeah.
And then the same coming like towards me, so what I'm consuming, it also has to come to a point where I'm filtering it through Jesus. Like, I don't wear glasses, but you do, and they're very nice.
Thank you.
If you took your glasses off, your filter of what the world looks like is skewed, right?
Yes.
And so when you put like your Jesus glasses on, if you will, it's helping what your eyes are seeing, because it's filtering what's coming in and also filtering what's going out, which is pretty crazy. But also super important.
Yeah.
Like when there's that young Pharisee, man, I feel bad for the guy. He probably thought he was doing the right thing, but he comes to Jesus and he's like, I got a zinger for this guy. We're going to smoke him with this one. And he's like, what's the greatest commandment? There's thousands of commandments. Jesus, what are you going to do about this? And then Jesus is like, as he always does, acting like he's God or something. He goes, the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And then the second one is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And if you do all those four things, then you're doing all the law and all the prophets. Stellar move, like life hack right there. But like we're supposed to love God with our mind, which means if my resting mind isn't loving God, then it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Then I'm like missing out on like at least 25% of all the law and all the prophets, and that's a hard plummet to the grade.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's a scripture, I think it's 1 Corinthians 10:31, where it says, and all you do, whether you eat or drink, let it all be done for the glory of God. And that's it, like everything you do. If it's just sitting there, like while you're holding Ivo and he's asleep, while you're sitting there, like that's a time that could be spent with the Lord. When I'm driving my small group around, like that's a time that can be used for the Lord. Or when I'm driving back to San Antonio to see my family, like that's a long time.
That's a long drive.
If it's just me zoned out the whole time, that was a waste. And it could have been used for a deeper intimacy with Jesus. It could have been used for him to speak to me and like tell me something that he's been trying to, if I would have just paid attention,
Yeah. So this is probably not entirely accurate in this phrasing, but do you think, so bear with me.
Okay. Do
you think God experiences FOMO? Because I know I do. What do you think about that?
Okay, so, like whenever your friends are hanging out and you had something planned and they know that you had something planned and they don't invite you, you're kind of like,
it's not a good feeling.
You didn't want me there, even though you know I couldn't be there, but it was the consideration, it was the invitation just to be with you. That's like what is so special. And I think that that's something that the Lord wants. I don't know if he experiences FOMO.
Probably not, technically.
Probably not. But he probably really enjoys when we consider him and like when we invite him. Even though he's already there, he doesn't need an invitation. He doesn't need an invitation to be here with you and me right now. But like asking him, like, Lord, would you come be with me? Asking him if there's a way you could do something differently, if you could serve a person differently, if you could rest differently in a different and creative way. I think that's what he really enjoys, because he gets to be a part of like our mundane, of our day-to-day,
Yeah. And it's almost like, since he's always with us and he's already there anyways, it's like when I experience FOMO, it's like I'm missing out. Like I'm fearing the missing out. And so it's like something that's happening away from where I am. But if God's always with us, Jesus is with us right now, then to do something without him is like, it's like even a step further where it's like, you're here, but I'm just going to kind of ignore you and do my own thing. And that's weird.
That's awkward.
Like that's awkward. It's like if you apply it to any other situation, like with people we can see and that are like physically next to us, it's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's like a weird thing to do. So resting minds, like putting them like on God, that makes me think of Philippians 4:8. And it's like, I love cheat sheets. Like I love, if somebody's going to ask me to do something, I'm like, please tell me how to do it, because I feel like the biggest idiot when I'm like, oh no, I need to do something, but what?
Yeah.
Like they've told me what success is, but I have no idea how to get there. Thankfully, God doesn't really do that with us. But Paul says this. He says, finally, brothers and sisters, so it's just us. Finally, people, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things. And if you practice these things, the peace of God will be with you. Like, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, there's a really good filter of like, what are good things to think about? Yeah. And you gave some great examples, like listening to worship music, sermons, podcasts, just simply like inviting God to be there with you while you're making a sandwich can take it from just making a sandwich to spending time with Jesus making a sandwich. Yeah. That's way better. It probably tastes better too. Made with love. Yeah. That'd be really Maybe that's good. How my mom did that. I don't know. But
Whenever
also
they say made with love, it's because they invited Jesus.
Dang. Thanks, Mom.
That's the secret.
Yeah, we found it. That's the secret to making the best sandwiches. What's cool is, so we have this list of this filter of what kinds of things to think about. Yeah. But what's even sweeter about it is the promise that comes with it that then the peace of God will be with us. Oh. And it's like thoughts, actions, habits, character, destiny. Do you want a destiny and a character that is rooted in the peace of God? Mm-hmm. Or do you want a character and destiny that's rooted in our own anxieties and stress? And it's like, there's a clear choice here. You know? Yeah. But it's so easy to not develop the discipline, right? To set your mind, because that's where it all starts. It's like these huge, big ideas ultimately glorifying God or not, but it all starts with our thoughts. Yeah. Dang.
It's crazy.
That's wild. Have you found it to be a pretty big challenge, or is it something that's pretty natural to you these days?
These days, it's more natural. Definitely when I first came to college and was really walking with Jesus, it was hard. But now it's easier and it's more exciting to ask the Lord in, just to do something differently, like asking him how I can rest differently, because whatever I was doing, because I was doing it in my own strength and in my own ways, wasn't working. And whenever he's a part of it, it's so much better.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. It's been a good conversation.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next time on The Drip.